Well, class, this may very well be the last time we meet. Today is our last class before I let you fly free. My name is St. James, but you can call me Coach Jim. At the beginning of this journey, you were weak. But now just look at how strong you have become. I am so proud of each and every one of you. I have a confession for you. Underneath all this expensive sports stuff, and deep past my gospel six-pack lays a man who just wants to be a champion for you. But I was never your real coach. Your real coach is my brother, Jesus. Coach Jim, for the final time, out. Oh, for crying out loud, I'd just like for once to be able to blow my own whistle.
Welcome to gym class. My name is Coach Brian, and I am here to pump you up. You can do this with me. I'm here to pump you up. Yes, I realize you've been in gym class for 3 weeks now, but I want to tell you, all those workouts so far are weak. They're all weak. No pain, no gain, one quick, two short, one fast, whatever it is. It's like, what does that even mean? Today, we're going to approach the greatest spiritual workout ever. And here it is. Grab your mind and get it ready. It's conflict. Listen, you don't schedule the conflict workout. The conflict workout schedules you. It can come from anywhere, anytime, any place, and you better be ready for it because it'll take you out. It's huge like me, and you must be prepared. Write this in the blank. It's the big idea for today. And if you're wondering where the bulletins are, they're that way. Write this in the blank. Conflict is the most rigorous spiritual workout that will either make you or break you. It can pump you up like me, or it can tear you down like a little Rob Wagner. You do not want this. Sadly, there is some really bad counsel out there on how to deal with conflict, and it looks a little bit like these guys with their spiritual workout. If you're 37 years or older, you know who I've been mimicking for a while. Back in the 80s, Hans and Franz were a part of Saturday Night Live, and they offered absolutely ridiculous quick fix solutions that did not work. So we're gonna be done with this. You thought that was me, didn't you? You're like, never seen that guy, never knew he was that buff. Well, it didn't work. So anyway, so Coach Jim, when it comes to conflict, is the absolute opposite of Hans and Franz. He wants to give you wisdom that will actually work. Here's the series big idea, if you'll write this in. Authentic faith works out wisdom in our everyday problems and relationships. It works out. And that's the key phrase right there. Works out. Real faith proves itself with some meaningful results. Read this verse with me, if you will. It's kind of the theme verse from the book of James for gym class. Let's read it together. Some will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. Now, a lot of people take this verse and use it to really shape kind of where they come from theologically. I think that's great. But what I hope it'll do more is shape how you approach every day working and walking out with God, particularly as it comes to conflict. Who's had conflict in the last 6 hours? 12 hours, 24 hours. Yeah, we're getting there. It's coming. And what James is saying is if you actually do have faith, meaning you actually trust my words enough to actually apply them, which is what this really means, if you will take my words and apply them, it'll work out itself in wisdom. And here's what it'll look like if you apply the gym class workout. It will show by having more conflict, ending with 2 winners and no losers. Who wants some of that for their conflict? If you actually do follow this spiritual workout as it comes to conflict from Coach Jim, we will show itself by resolving conflict with 2 winners and no losers. But let me give you a warning on the front end. Coach Jim's conflict workout is tough. It is really tough. And it will take faith on your part, I promise you. But it makes so much sense. We'll see it as we go through it. It makes so much sense, much like the exponentially growing fitness phenomena, CrossFit. CrossFit is a workout regimen in what's called CrossFit boxes, and in just 12 years since they started, they've grown to 13,000 gyms worldwide with 4 million members. And CSNBC actually had a report that said it's the biggest fitness trend in the world. And when you see growth like that, you always ask the question, what is it? What's the secret sauce? What is going on in there to provide that exponential growth? And I want to talk about the three of the distinctives of CrossFit today because they apply so much to Coach Jim's workout when it comes to conflict. It's constantly varied, meaning that they rarely do the same WOD or workout of the day. They don't want the muscles to get into a routine of expecting what's coming. They shake it up. They change it up all the time in order to optimize the effect. And listen, does conflict ever come at you the same way? It comes from different people in different ways, challenging different parts of who we are. The second thing there is it's high intensity. High intensity, it pushes the limits of the endurance. They want to get the most impact in the least amount of time at CrossFit. And conflict is very similar. It pushes you to the highest intensity really fast. I mean, you can be going through a day and it's a great day. The sun's shining, the kids got off to work or to school, wherever they're doing, and everything's great. One conflict ruins the whole day, right? It can happen. It pushes the intensity of our emotional capacity. And the third thing about CrossFit Gym and their effectiveness is their effective community. I mean, one of the big deals about CrossFit is setting personal goals and sharing those personal goals with other people in the CrossFit community, and they're there to hold you accountable, make sure you show up, and they're there to cheer you on. You've got this. You can do this. In fact, that may be the highest ingredient that leads to their success. 2 other things about CrossFit to point out. 100% of those who apply it will actually show results. If you go to a CrossFit gym and you do what they say, you follow what the coach says, both with diet and with the physical regimen, you will change. Your BMI will change. Your body mass index, here's what that means. The fat's gonna go away and the lean muscle's gonna get more toned and bigger. The body mass index will change. You step into Coach Jim's spiritual CrossFit box, your BSI will change. Your body soul index. The spirit index, the spiritual fat will be cut away. The old self will be cut away. And the presence of Christ through his spirit will grow. And here's the coolest thing. Another thing about CrossFit, anyone can join regardless of their current physical condition or their current physical shape. And it's the same with Jesus. He's saying you ruined every conflict you've ever had in life up to this point. All right, I'll take you. Nobody is kicked out of this box. All are welcome. Just simply come in and start to work out with us. I love that about our coach. Here's the secret sauce of Jim's workout. He answers 3 questions for us. 1, where does my conflict come from? Don't know which muscles to treat if you don't know where it comes from. What perpetuates my conflict? What keeps it going? What keeps that wheel spinning of the same conflicts coming back and being resolved in the same painful way? And then third, how can I grow through my conflict? What are the workout machines that I need to get on or the exercises that I need to do? Let's get going and ask the question, where does my conflict come from? Jim answers it this way. Conflicts come from our desires. Will you write that in the blank? Conflicts come from our desires. Here's the verse. He says, what's causing the quarrels and the fights among you? Don't they come from the evil desires Ugh. Told you this workout was tough. The evil desires at war within you. You want what you don't have, so you scheme and you kill to get it. When Coach Jim says, when he starts to ask you, well, where's the desire, where does that conflict come from? He says, it's not from that other person over there, and it's not from these circumstances over here. It's right where? Right here. Look inside. And typically when a conflict comes, here's what I do. I start playing prosecuting attorney for what the other person did wrong. Anybody else? You start making the case in your own head. And when it comes to them accusing you of something, you immediately play defense attorney. Here's all the reasons why what they said is wrong. James is saying, cut that out. When it comes to conflict, if you want to address the right muscle group, when you come to this workout, he says, look inside. The word desires in the ancient text is the word hedona, which we get the word hedonism from. Hedonism is a major philosophy in the world that says pleasure is the highest principle, or pleasure is the highest pursuit. And what Coach Jim is saying is you have a pleasure principle within inside of you that actually drives this conflict. If you don't buy it, I want to encourage you to check out what Sigmund Freud, one of the primary influencers on contemporary psychology, says about our psyche. He uses the word psyche instead of the word soul, and he breaks the psyche into three components. The id, the ego, and the superego. And if you've ever had any type of, general psychology, you've learned this. But let me refresh you on what he says about the id. He says this: the id is the impulsive and unconscious part of our psyche, which responds directly and immediately to the instincts. The id operates on the pleasure principle, which is the idea that every wishful impulse should be satisfied immediately, regardless of the consequences. And when the id achieves its demands, we experience pleasure. When it's denied, we experience unpleasure or tension. The id remains, listen to this, it remains infantile in its function throughout a person's life and does not change with time or experience, as it's not in touch with the external world. This form of process thinking has no comprehension of objective reality and is selfish and wishful in nature. This is Freud, an atheist, who said God is a delusion, saying that, yes, that there is a relentlessly selfish and unteachable and unchanging part of our psyche. He gets it. But all he got, really, was the ability to tap into something that Jesus had revealed to the Apostle Paul 1,850 years earlier. Paul writes this in Romans 7 as he deals with his own spiritual struggle and his own conflicts. He says, I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. I love God's law with all my heart, but there's another power within me that is at war with my mind. Way, way back, Paul is saying there's a battle going on inside of me. There's a part of me that wants to honor God. There's a part that just flat out won't, and for whatever reason, it won't change. He goes actually on to say, who will rescue me from this body of death? He's seriously struggling. Freud called it the id. The Bible calls it the sinful nature. Coach Jim says that's where the conflict starts. You have conflict because you have a relentlessly unchanging, uneducatable part of you called the sinful nature. And it makes so much sense. Coach Jim continues with the first way that our conflict is perpetuated. He's answered the question, where does my conflict come from? It's in me, not out there. And now he says, how do we perpetuate this thing? In essence, our desires master us more than our master does. If you'll write that in the blank, that's the first thing that perpetuates it. Our desires master us more than our master. He says this: you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. In other words, you're unwilling to see inside. You stop looking inside. You might pray. If you do, you're still praying without having dealt with the right problem. Your prayers are going to the right person, but they're coming from the wrong place if you haven't checked your motives. And you might be wondering, well, how can this be, Brian? I mean, I'm a good person. I'm trying my best. Here's the breakdown of any type of conflict. Person A is over here. And the reason they're allowing the conflict to escalate is because they believe that they are 100% what? They're right. Person B is over here, letting it go all the way to the nines, ready for this to tear their relationship up and cause their children confusion if they're in the house. And they're doing it because they believe they're 100%. Well, how in the world can that be the case? It can't be. They're being driven by something far more innate. James is pointing to it. Unfortunately, many of us go get reinforcements for our position instead of looking honestly inside. And it's Coach Jim's second thing that perpetuates our conflict. He tells us this. He says, friendly counsel ends up trumping God's counsel. And that will keep your conflict going. In other words, we go to hear from people that we want, what we want to hear instead of what we need to hear. And listen at how strong the language is that Coach Jim uses. I mean, he gets his coaching bark on with this. When he says, you adulterers, don't you realize that friendship with the world makes you an enemy of God? I say it again. If you want to be a friend of the world, you make yourself an enemy of God. Now, when he uses the word adulterers, he's not talking about the act of adultery. He's using it as a metaphor, basically saying if you choose the counsel or the wisdom of the world instead of the wisdom of God, you're basically cheating on God. And you're really cheating yourself. But he's using such strong language, adultery, enemies of God, saying, listen, you're going to the wrong place. That wisdom will not work itself out with two winners and no losers. We've got to do something different with that wisdom. A good coach will tell you the truth, even if it hurts, and Coach Jim brings it. So let's dig into the plan. Here's what he says. He says, once you accept where your conflict comes from, your own desires inside, and once you've decided to stop trying to perpetuate that, or at least you realize where those places are, here's the plan. Here's the workout. Write this in the blank. Submit your conflict to God. When the escalation has started, this side's going up, this side's going up, and you know that you're getting ready to get into that attorney position. He says, just back up, back away, step away from it, and say, God, if there's a way at all for me to just take this conflict and put it in a box and just put it on the table in front of you, here it is. And God, I give you permission. In fact, I don't just give you permission, I beg you to use whatever means you will to change me in this conflict. I told you this workout was hard. Use whatever means you will to do something in me and to change the way I have been doing conflict. James starts this with humble yourself before the Lord. Humble, word humos, it means earth, like lower yourself. Put yourself on the ground. God, use whatever means you see fit to grow me. Now, Paul, the one who recognized the sinful nature, says this is the process of what it means to humble yourself before God. He says in Galatians 2, my old self has been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but it's Christ who lives within me. Here's a guy who stepped back from his conflict, put it there and said, I don't know how to be a human being in this situation. I'm putting it before God and saying, do whatever you will. And somehow he started to carve away the old self. This is a daily reminder that old self, that id, that sinful nature doesn't learn. It must what? That sinful nature must die. That's what Paul's saying. I've been crucified with Christ. Has he literally been crucified? No. Has he metaphorically and spiritually been crucified? Pretty much every day. You know when Jesus said, if you want to be my follower, you must take up your cross and follow me? I don't think he meant literally. What he meant is let a daily reminder be there that if you want to become more like me, you have to become less like you. And to become less like you, you have to go to the cross and allow parts of your old nature to die on a daily basis. Just like in a physical workout, when you go in there and you grab the dumbbells, you grab the machine, when you're doing this, what are you doing to your muscles actually? You're killing them. You're stretching them. You're tearing them. You are ripping them. Somehow there's a mystery that goes on there. When you tear and rip those muscles, the proteins and the acids all go together and they start to form new and stronger muscle. How does that happen? It's a mystery. How does the spiritual transformation happen? It's an equal mystery that the cross will actually be the path to spiritual formation. But what Jesus modeled for us, he was the one willing to go first. You go to the cross, there's resurrection on the other side. Who needs a little bit of resurrection in their conflict? The pathway is the cross. I told you this workout stinks. I told you it's hard. But man, it works. It's the mystery of the resurrection. We are sore, but we are stronger. Here it is in simple terms. Write this in the blank. Conflict minus the cross is futility. Dr. Phil's going to ask you, how's that working out for you? And we're going to say it's the same as it has been because it's still futile. But conflict plus the cross equals cross fit. So what does Coach Jim say next? He wants to say this and he wants to say it loud and clear. Reject all of that friendly wisdom. Did you write that in the blank? Reject all that friendly wisdom. James is hearkening back to when he told us that we go to hear what we want to hear instead of hearing what we need to hear. And he's saying to reject it in the strongest of terms. Listen to what he says. Resist the devil and he'll flee from you. Resist the devil. Why is he talking about the devil? Because all counsel that tries to say, look out for number one or all these other things is coming from hell itself. He's like, you'll work out muscles, but they'll be the wrong muscles the whole time. And you'll never get fit through this CrossFit thing at all. Satan is ultimately behind every bit of poor counsel. The best way I can describe this is in James's terms is to treat bad counsel like we would the flu this year. Well, the flu any year, but particularly this year. When you see somebody get like their stomach upset and you just shook their hand, what do? You're bailing, man. You're out of there. You don't care what happens to them. You're cleaning your hands and you're getting away and you want to put a mask on. And James is saying, be this way toward that type of selfish counsel. Get away from it in the strongest terms. He actually says, when he said, don't be double-minded, the word there is fun. It's dipsychos. Dipsychos. James is saying, don't be a dip psycho. If you listen to what the worldly counsel says and you listen to what God says, don't be a dip psycho. You'll only go psycho if you try to live with Christ and using friendly wisdom. Let's reject that and then do what? Listen for and confess your role. This is the hardest part of the workout. This is when there's sweat, man. This is when you're wondering if you're going to make it. It's right before the euphoria kicks in, and it's when you wonder if you can keep it going. The muscles are burning. Come close to God, and God will come close to you. Wash your hands, you sinners. What is Coach Jim saying here? He's saying draw close to God first. If you've put the conflict on the table, and if you've said use whatever means, and you've pushed away all counsel that will go against you, drawing near to God and listening to him. Draw near to God and say, God, show me what's in me that's broken. Don't just show me my behaviors. I kind of see those, but show me those unwavering, unteaching desires that you want to deal with. Every conflict is a potential X-ray into one of your desires that must die. What is it? Don't know. But James is saying if you draw near to God, he'll draw near to you and he'll show you. This is hard, but it makes so much sense. Wash your hands comes from a word that we get the word catharsis from. And if you're familiar with catharsis, it's kind of this super cleansing, emptying, or a washing of all that's been backed up into your own spiritual plumbing. It's just like somebody pulled the drain and all the blah just went all over the floor. And when we're talking about confessing here, we're not talking just simply about confessing the behaviors that you've been engaging in, but confessing those unwavering, those unyielding desires. I've shared this before, but it's worth sharing again. The most threatening conflict that I ever had was early in marriage with my wife, Carol. My behavior at the time was a very controlling jealousy of her. I tried to change it. Things only got worse. Here's what was going on. I mean, I would just constantly give her a cold shoulder, be like a jerk. If I was ever kind of threatened that she would hurt me or whatnot, I would just turn on that controlling behavior. Man, I'm telling you, listen up. If this is where you are and you've been here a long time, step into this gym, because this seems to be the one that plagues men the most. It's also the one that'll keep you from actually going and getting the help that you need. And man, the cross is ugly and it's painful, and this is the hardest workout I've ever been through. But I'm telling you, chase Jesus to the cross and trust that resurrection will be on the other side. I drew near to God. Thankfully, I was in a counseling program at the time, and the Coach Jim process was right there. It was drawing near to Christ, and I was surrounded by other community that would help me see what was going on. And when I found out, my unwavering desire, and this is really embarrassing to have to lay out, especially because of the fact she's even in here, but she's heard all this, was to protect me from her choosing better men than me. And when I looked out, 100% of the men were better than me. And I knew it was all messed up. I knew that my behavior was actually making me less attractive all the time. But it's unwavering, it's unyielding, it's unteachable, it's unconscious, it's not even privy to the outside world because it doesn't care. I accepted that it came from me. I quit blaming her and everybody else. I listened to Jesus, learned what it was. I confessed it to Jesus. I confessed it to friends. I confessed it to Carol and a few others. And it led to this part. Write this in, because this is where the euphoria of the workout kicks in and the magic begins to happen. Grieve your broken desires. Listen to what it says. Let there be tears for what you have done. Let there be sorrow and deep grief. Let there be sadness instead of laughter and gloom instead of joy. Why? Because that's the appropriate behavior when you come to terms with just how broken your own desires are. And that's where I came to it. I'll never forget the morning Carol was getting ready for work. I was having one of my stupid controlling episodes, and I remember God giving me the clarity in the moment to have this catharsis moment. And the words that came out were these: I am simply afraid you will leave me, and I am unreasonably controlling you, thinking that it will work. I know it is destroying you, and I am so sorry. And with that, I just dropped what I had. I went back to the back of our apartment, and I just broke down and sobbed uncontrollably for about 30 minutes. We're talking deep snot cry. I mean, just like blah, all over the place. And I was a different man after that workout. Not done. Plenty of work yet. But man, my BSI changed big that day. Now, I want to acknowledge something here. There is nothing attractive about this workout. If some church were to post a sign that says, here's the workout and here's what's involved, we would all walk away and go find the top 3 tips to avoiding conflict. And where would we be? Right where we are. There's nothing attractive about this workout. It's tough. It's going to make you sore, but my gosh, it works. It saved my marriage. It saved my kids' health. It gives me hope for the brokenness that's left inside. So a question I want to ask of you, it's not me, Coach Jim, Jesus wants to ask you, what conflict is the CrossFit box in front of you right now? What's the conflict you keep finding yourself going back to where you say, we need to get some help, but then something in you says, I don't want help. It's kept you away from getting help. It's kept you're trying to stay safe. And Jesus is trying to woo you in to the box, saying all are welcome, all will be empowered. And he's even say, I'll be your strength for you. What is it? I encourage you in the next few minutes to take that conflict to Jesus, to ask him what step he wants you to take right now. Is it to submit it to him? Is it to reject certain counsel? What is it? And in the process of sharing that with him, let him speak into your soul.
Say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Sing it with me. Jesus paid it all, and all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain. White as snow. Lord, now indeed I find thy power and thine alone can change the leper's spots and melt the heart of stone. Jesus paid it all, and all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. And when before the throne I stand in him complete, Jesus died my soul to save, amen. And my lips shall still repeat, sing it out. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Sin had left. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. He washed it white as snow. He washed it white as snow. Oh, praise the one who
Go ahead and take a seat if you will. I'll pull these back up. Just to make the point, when it comes to conflict, there's no way to fake your way through it. Just no way to fake your way through it. Hope you'll toss those aside. There's no quick fix. There's no easy way to get there, but a regular commitment to this workout will show improvement. And James wants you to know that. James actually at the very end of this chapter goes back to the beginning thing that he said when he started to tell us what the workout was about. And he repeats the words, humble yourself before the Lord. But this time he shows the result. Look what it says. And he will lift you up in honor. God will do the lifting. I just want to share the irony of this with you really quickly. We tend to think that if we actually confess that nasty beast that's inside of us, that we'll be rejected by God, right? That's the logic we tend to come up with. If we just acknowledge that beast, God's going to go, oh, I'm done with you. But what we're learning today from Coach Jim is that if we actually do acknowledge that, he will honor us as we're broken. He will meet us the other side of that cross, and he will lift us out of the tomb of our conflict, and he will actually lift us up. It's the mystery of the cross. Death leads to resurrection. The workout's hard, but it works. One thing to remember as you prepare to grow, this is one of the key factors to the success of the CrossFit workout regime. They do it in community. So I encourage you and treat you as a man who's been in a group for the last 25 years and has remained committed to be in a group until I die. I entreat you to ask for help in community. It's what sets the CrossFit boxes apart. They have people to help. Here's what's fun. You've got the conflict that you've named. And if you're alone with it, except for the person that you're in that conflict with, you can go to community that's on the same journey with you and share with them, 2 or 3 trusted people, what that conflict is, where you think Jesus is asking you to take a step as regards to that conflict, and ask for their prayers, ask for their support, and ask for their accountability. You'll get there if you do that. If you don't, the chances are you really will not make any movement. And this semester's group that we're encouraging folks in is the perfect one. It's a group called Community. It's 8 weeks long, and it doesn't assume you know anything about God. But if you are wanting to pursue God in a community and learn how to actually build those relationships where those kind of conversations can evolve, this is a perfect solution. Several of you have stepped up and said, I'll group up with people that I know. I've got folks that I actually meet down at the CrossFit gym. I've got folks that are in our soccer club or in our team's whatever group. I'll invite them to become more intentional. And what we do is we give you the curriculum. We give you a person to walk alongside of you. We call them a mentor. They've just been there and done that with starting a group. And we'll help you succeed. So you can do that. The information for that is actually in the bulletin. So you can grab that and take a next step with that. They start next week. And then there's an experience tonight called a connection event here. If for whatever reason the idea of taking the initiative to lead others and that group up is too big of a step and you want to just come and meet with other people that are about to take that step but don't have a leader, come and hang out with us tonight at the church. We'll take care of that business and it'll be a lot of fun. Let's take one more look at our coach. By the way, has the team done a good job with this Coach Jim thing? Has that been fun? You want to give them a thank you for that? Coach Jim, out. I loved how they said today that it really isn't Jim, it's his brother Jesus. And Jesus' words are these: you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Real faith works itself out and experiences freedom. If you need to talk to someone today about a conflict you're in and you would like for someone to pray for you, I will have trusted friends down front, both here in the North Room and over there in South. Make sure that you step up and talk with them. If you're online, please connect one of the buttons there, click one of the buttons there, and someone will be happy to speak with you. And by the way, be back next week, will you? February 4. I'm so stoked about Randy Frazee coming to our church. I think you're going to find him an extraordinarily winsome man and teacher and leader. Westside's best days are ahead, and I encourage you to be a part of affirming him. Will you please stand with me as we wrap up? I want to share a blessing from God. May the God of the universe give you his power, allowing conflict to make you, to free you from the wars within you, to lead you to peace and to freedom as you become more like Jesus. God's people said together, amen. God bless you. See you next time, friends.